Hey everybody, I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where I, Davis Green, talks to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with our terrific guests, like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel. We release Pop Culture Gems on all podcast services and also on our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com. If you'd like to support the podcast in any way, you can always become a CFG member by going to the main website, thecfg.store. Today, I am talking to a voice actor who has played in several animated series, TV, and films. He was the Boss Baby in The Boss Baby Back in Business, the Joker in the upcoming DLC of Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, coming March 28th, Gawain in Fate Grand Order and Grand Carnival. But you should definitely check him out playing the shape-shifting mutant Morph in X-Men 97. I would like to welcome JP Karliak to the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to definitely associate a face to the character.
Right? Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, let's get this party started. So what is your story? Like, what got you into voice acting?
So I grew up loving cartoons. I was obsessed with Looney Tunes and Disney movies and so many things. When I was right about the age where I started to recognize, like, oh, one day I will need to get a job. I saw the movie Aladdin and I saw Robin Williams do his amazing thing. And I thought, okay, I want to do that. So in my brain, I associated, in order to be allowed to do voiceover, I would have to become a famous Hollywood celebrity. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just go do that, you know. So I went and pursued on-camera acting. That's what I went to college for. My interest was in getting into TV and film, and thinking that one day I might get to do voiceover. And luckily, somebody in college, I had a professor, Kelly Ward, musical theater director and also director of many animated films. He's fantastic. He was in the original Grease movie. Kelly told me, yeah, you could just start auditioning for animation now. You don't have to be famous. I'm like, oh, sure. So I started getting into voiceover while I was pursuing my on-camera career, but I found while on-camera auditions kept getting more and more limiting in terms of what they would send me out for, voiceover just kept expanding with all the different characters that I was allowed to play or that I would be cast as. So I was like, I want to do more of that. So I left on-camera, and now this is all I do. Not to mention, on-camera doesn't tell me what. Voiceover doesn't tell me what color I have to dye my hair. So.
That's fair. That's fair enough. So, but I guess the big thing though too is like, you knew, so your ultimate goal was you wanted to do voice acting. You knew you wanted to do voice acting at an early age, but you thought you went one way, but you ended up going where you were needing to be, which is awesome. But did you like any doing like on camera itself or performing theatrically in like plays, musicals, and such?
Oh yeah, I had fun, but I think there's the difference between enjoying doing something and pounding the pavement to make it your living. Like, when I would book something in film, I've done 2 on-camera projects. I was in Ringer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I did 1 episode, which was fun. We had a good time. I also did an episode of Real Husbands of Hollywood opposite. Oh my God, his name just flew out of my head. Wow, that happened.
It's funny,
but anyway,
you remember when you're asleep too.
JB Smoove. Oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. We had a great time working. But those are like the little blips of good times in the midst of really the slog. And the same with musical theater. Like, I've done a bit of it and I've enjoyed, when I've gotten to do cabarets or smaller shows, but the idea of really having to make it my craft and perfect everything and be excellent in that, that is
it's a whole different.
I am not cut out for that. But voiceover, there's so many aspects of it, whether it's sounding like a character or creating new character voices or just people watching and listening to how people make the sounds that they make and be like, ooh, can I try to do that? that's stuff that I just get really fascinated by, and that doesn't feel like work. That feels like just having fun. So
Oh,
yeah,
sounds like you're like really loving that the pitch and the audio, like audio files and stuff like that. You know, that kind of level. So that's pretty
absolutely.
cool. All right, and you said you liked watching cartoons growing up and stuff. Like, did you watch the original X-Men series growing up?
So I was in I would have been in middle school and high school when the X-Men series was on. By the
Mhm.
time I would get home from school, I walked home.
Mhm.
I would turn on the TV and the end credits of X-Men were rolling just as I was starting to watch the Power Rangers, which would come on right after.
Right.
Um, so I didn't really see it, and also I didn't have any friends who were into comic books. You know, that wasn't really a big thing.
Mhm.
I'm from, a small town outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and yeah, there weren't a lot of really big comic book people in my friend group.
Oh, okay.
So wasn't until I started watching the movies that I really got into the X-Men. And I would start like I would get fascinated by, wait a minute, who's that character? I want to know more about that person. And then I would do like the deep dive on the internet to be like, who is that? I want to know more about their backstory. And, so and that's been true of everything from X-Men to Batman to the Avengers to, I mean, all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I
Mhm.
love watching YouTube videos where they do the deep dive of Easter eggs. And I'm like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So I kind of back ended into what all of that lore and backstory is.
Right.
But I love it. It's so much fun.
Hey, I mean, if you appreciate it, I mean that's all one could ask. So that's awesome.
For
Um,
sure.
and do you like have any like I mean, do you have any like favorite heroes or villains in the Marvel or DC universes? Yeah, DC universe.
Oh, boof.
I'm not saying to
I
pick
mean,
one. You could choose as many as you want.
no, it's
But
actually now that usually I have a hard time picking favorites, but this one isn't actually as hard as I thought. With Marvel, there's two villains that I absolutely am obsessed with, and that's Loki and the Loki because I love him, Green Goblin because I play him and I adore him. He's just the most fun. He's just such a ball of mischief. At least the version I play. Like my Green Goblin, because he's aimed at the little kids, he's
Mhm.
never evil. He's always just mischievous, and I just love that about him. But Loki is, I mean, especially what Tom Hiddleston has done with that character, it is just beautiful.
Big time.
From being a chewing the scenery villain to being a, anti-hero to being a reform, like an actual hero, like there's so many levels to everything he's done. And then the
Mhm.
DC universe, I mean, it's the Joker, man. Like always has been, always will be. He's fantastic. I would expand that out to like the core rogues gallery of Batman, like
Mhm.
Joker, Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, Poison Ivy, Mister Freeze. Like
Yeah.
basically,
Batman villains. Yeah, Batman
more or less the
villains
group
just
from
rock.
that. Yeah, more or less that iconic group from that episode of Batman the Animated Series where they're all playing cards, and all telling
Oh
their
yeah.
stories. Yeah, yeah.
Oh god.
Just take out Killer Croc's fine. He's just not my favorite. Sub out Killer Croc from Mister Freeze, and we got it.
That's funny. You just making me go back in time with that with that card thing. I just remember.
Seriously, one of the
Oh,
best
that's
episodes ever.
it really really was. You're totally right. And like what do you like to play more personally? Are you a fan of being a protagonist or an antagonist, and why?
I love villains, man. Huge fan of villains. I mean, and I will say, Morph isn't a villain, but I do think one of the things that I love about the X-Men is
Mm-hmm.
that they're misunderstood. And that's what I think I love so much about villains is there's that element of being misunderstood, especially cartoon villains. I mean, when we start to get realistic, then it's like, well, you're just bad. But I grew up my earliest cartoon fave was He-Man, and I didn't care about He-Man. I loved Skeletor. I was all about him. Um, and I loved how misunderstood he was. I loved his quippy, sarcastic, biting humor. I
Mm-hmm.
loved that as much as the He-Man would always knock him out at the end of every episode, he was always coming back for more, always just wanted to get back to Grayskull every single time. And I love that about villains. Their tenacity is just so great, all with that biting sense of humor. And I think even though he's not a villain, Morph is falls into that zone of having that, he's had a very traumatic backstory from the original 90s series, but he overcomes so much of it with that snappy little sense of humor and his little laugh, that masks all of that trauma, which I absolutely identify with.
Well, that's cool. And excuse me. And I know, like you said earlier, man, and I'm kind of not surprised that you would choose Pro Tag because or Antag because you immediately listed all the villains on Marvel and DC sides as your favorite. Not even one hero was on your list there. So playing an iconic villain as the Joker is a big deal, and you did it. Like the upcoming Joker DLC that's coming for DC's Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Did you do anything special to kind of give your print playing him?
I mean, I think more than any role that I've played, that is a scary one to take on because of how many iconic, and I mean iconic, portrayals of the Joker have come before. When I was a little kid, I was watching reruns of the original 60s Batman with Cesar Romero. Then I saw Jack Nicholson, then Mark Hamill in every iteration. And Heath Ledger. Like, there's so many. Not to mention, I always have to shout out my two other favorites, John DiMaggio and Kevin Michael Richardson, and also Tony Hale. They also do a fantastic job.
Not Troy Baker?
So, I said what I said. No. Troy is great, but I will say the ones that I really love are those.
Okay.
Three.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, No. Troy's great. He's very talented. Yeah. So when I got the role, there's really a lot of that pressure of just figuring out, okay, what am I going to pull from? I will say the one benefit is this is a Joker nobody's ever seen before. He's an Elseworld Joker from a totally different universe with his own backstory and his own set of circumstances. So I didn't feel pressured like that I had to sound like any given previous Joker. But you do need to put your own stamp on it. So I was just pulling from what I loved, little bits that I loved, while also he's a younger Joker and he's not quite as charactery as some. Mm-hmm. So it was really just a lot of me plus adding little layers of Joker on top of it. And I mean, the nice thing is that you've got, decades of laughter to pull from. So I could kind of play around with whether it's starting out with a, just like whether it's with Heath Ledger and then building it into something more like, for some Mark Hamill stuff. So you really get to play around with all of that. I love
that. That's great. And I can't wait to see it. I haven't checked it out yet, but I can't wait to check your cast for it. Yeah.
He's very fun.
And you are and as we've been saying before, you're playing the loved shape-shifting character Morph. Like, overall, how was your experience playing this character?
Super fun. Really, really lovely. I think, as I said, really getting into a character who has a traumatic backstory, overcomes a lot of that with humor. Also, has such a deep and wonderful friendship with Wolverine and is the comic relief for the entire squad. He's there's a lot of layers to him. Not to mention, he's also a collaborative character. I play him when he's in Morph form, but whenever he transforms into another character, that actor who plays that character is doing me playing them, so it's interesting to, we were at the premiere and finally seeing the episodes for the first time, hearing how other actors have done Morph, when I change into them. It's really cool. It's really neat to hear their interpretation and how it all kind of seamlessly becomes this one person.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. You're totally right. I didn't I was just thinking Morph as the base character, but I didn't even think about the other voice actors have to play your character in that form. That must be kind of surreal though at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the sort of given that I say is like if you see a character come on screen and they start talking in a snarky, sarcastic voice, it's me. You know.
Oh, that's great. And Morph is also the first non-binary mutant in X-Men officially. And I'm just glad to see the representation in a series like this. Did this put any kind of level of pressure to play him or to play him on that role, or any kind of like thing just to make sure that that the representation is there? Excuse me, there.
Sure, sure. I mean, I mean, I identify as genderqueer, so it and which is in some senses, a synonym for non-binary. So I didn't feel that I wasn't going to get it. Like, that wasn't the hard part. But there is, of course, that pressure of being the first and having that responsibility of portraying that character right, and making sure that the people who identify as non-binary or as any gender non-conforming identity felt taken care of in this portrayal. But at the same time, I think we're at a juncture in queer representation where not everybody wants to see every queer character be squeaky clean and perfect. As a matter of fact, we kind of want to see a little imperfection so that it doesn't feel so patronizing
or stereotypical.
Yeah, and more like, it's funny, we're kind of going through the full circle of that. For so many years, there were a lot of villains that were queer coded, to appear like they might be queer. And then we got out of that and we're like, no, we don't want to villainize queer people. And now they're heroes. And now they're, and then they're all like sparkly tooth, like, perfect. And now we're kind of coming back like, yeah, but we want to play villains. Like, that's okay. We're people just like anybody else who have a variety of different personas who can be like, some of us are good, some of us are bad, some of us are in the gray areas, most of us probably are. And getting to show all sides of that. So I think taking a breath and taking the pressure off and just being like, I'm just going to be me and be me as more, and just trust that that's enough. And I don't have to put on any extra shellac to make it suitable for a queer audience, because I'm one of them. Like, it's not.
Well, that's cool. I mean, like, I guess the biggest thing is like I love that. Like, I mean, like you said, I mean, growing up, I loved X-Men because I think I could relate to X-Men a lot more, because they felt like they were always the odd man out, and they always were the people that were afraid of them, and just that fight to come back, and then that level of imperfection, and just to see the fact that they're adding more to that finally, after it's been around since the 60s. They're finally doing things like adding non-binary like to the mix of all of this stuff, on top of being a mutant and like of a group in a race that's not fitting in, is just very interesting to me, and I love to see that kind of level of representation. And on top of that, having someone that is queer running at that level. So I mean, I just think that it's a good way of seeing going that way, without kind of just being in that stereotypical kind of level, like what you were saying. So I definitely enjoy that.
For sure. And I mean, just the quick plug, I run an organization called QueerVox, which is a nonprofit academy and community for LGBTQIA plus voice actors. And so much of what we fight for is not just that authentic representation that we get to play ourselves in these roles, but also that we're entrusted to play the gamut of characters. Just as we've been for hundreds of years entrusted cisgender and straight people to portray anything they want. We should have that freedom as well to have that full gamut of roles open to us. so that we can make long-lasting and fulfilling careers in this business.
Yeah, it's funny. That was actually my next question. Was about your Queervox sites. That's
great. We're on the same wavelength. We got it. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I just love seeing that kind of stuff, and you're definitely doing a great job trying to spread that level of awareness, because I especially I saw that you also you're definitely doing a great job with that website. So thank you on doing that. And my last question to you is, if you had any kind of power, it doesn't matter what it is, what would you choose and why?
Oh, the mutant power thing. I've thought about this a lot, and not because I've been asked this in interviews, but because I'm just that nerd that sleeps up at night like, what would I have? I think I've settled on teleportation.
Teleportation. That's actually...
I love to travel. I also have, my mom is also across the country. There's I have a lot of friends spread around, the country, sometimes the world. And to be able to be with them and see them on a moment's notice, or just just pop over to some European city, or go have sushi in Tokyo, or yes. That would be awesome.
It would be kind of weird, because if you're the friend, if I was the friend of you, and then I'll be like, hey, is he going to be here today? I'll be on eggshells every time you just by snap, you're right there for no reason.
Oh, we'd have to have a decorum. It's I'm not going to show up unless you call, unannounced. So that would be weird.
Right. Oh man, Jay.
But the nice thing is you don't have to put me up for the night. I can just go home.
That is a very good point. You're totally right. But man, JP, thank you so much for stopping by, talking to me about this. It was really awesome to talk to you. And folks, also definitely go check out X-Men 97. It is coming out March 20th, or it's probably out now by the time you hear this, but it's on Disney Plus. So definitely check that out. It's going to be a great watch. I'm sure of it. But
oh, you have no idea.
How many episodes is it?
10 episodes. The first 2 drop on the 20th, and then every week after that will be 1 at a time.
Okay, perfect. Great. Mm-hmm. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. And guys, if you definitely love this interview with JP Karliak, you could definitely check this one out on any of the other ones that we've done in the past on our on any podcast services, or go to our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com, to check out the full library and volumes of everything we do here. So once again, this is Davis signing out. Y'all, take it easy.